Hey everyone, today we're going to dive into something pretty fascinating, a connection that's been hiding in plain sight in the Bible for thousands of years. It's a link between three objects that seem completely unrelated, but in their original language, they actually share a name, and that shared name unlocks a secret purpose.
I mean, it really sounds like the start of a riddle, doesn't it? A huge boat built for a global flood, a sacred box covered in gold, and a tiny little basket floating down a river. On the surface, you'd think absolutely nothing. But that shared name, that's our first clue that there's a much, much deeper story going on here.
All right, so here they are, our three main players. You've got Noah's Ark, basically a vessel of survival for all of humanity. Then there's the Ark of the Covenant, the literal symbol of God's presence with his people. And then the Ark of Moses, this desperate attempt to save one single baby who would go on to deliver a nation. So three totally different objects with three different purposes, right? Or maybe not.
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting. The key to this whole puzzle, it's buried in the original Hebrew. See, the word for Noah's boat and Moses' little basket is the exact same word, tebah. But the Ark of the Covenant, that's a totally different word, aron. Now that's not an accident. The biblical writers were deliberately connecting the stories of Noah and Moses while setting that golden chest apart for a reason. And we're about to find out exactly why. So let's start with the most famous one, Noah's Ark. This was all about physical salvation. God provided it as the one and only way for Noah's family and all the animals to be kept safe from the waters of judgment that were covering the whole earth. Its entire purpose was to preserve life so humanity could get a fresh start.
Next up, the Ark of the Covenant. Now this one wasn't designed to float on water. This was the sacred heart of Israel's worship. It was the physical manifestation of God's holy presence and his promise to them. They'd carry it into battle, and it was kept in their most sacred space.
And finally, we have the smallest ark of all. This tiny teba was a vessel of personal salvation. When Pharaoh ordered all Hebrew baby boys to be killed, Moses' mother placed him in this little basket, trusting it to save the future deliverer of Israel from a certain death.
So we've got these three different stories, right? But as we start to look a little closer, this really powerful, repeating pattern starts to emerge. These aren't just random objects in unrelated stories. They are all vessels of divine salvation, and each one plays a specific part in a much bigger story.
And when you lay it all out like this, wow, the intentional design is just undeniable. Think about it. Each ark is God's direct answer to a deadly threat. You've got the waters of judgment, he gives Noah's Ark. The separation from God because of sin, the Ark of the Covenant representing his presence. An evil king's death decree, Moses' little basket. He seals Noah in, he dwells among his people, he hides Moses on the river. It's a crystal clear pattern. God always provides a way through the crisis.
But the story goes even deeper than just the container itself. What was placed inside each of these arks is just as important. It reveals even more about what they symbolize. You could say the contents themselves tell a story.
So, inside Noah's Ark, what do you find? The seeds of a brand new world. It wasn't an empty boat. It was packed full with the promise of a future. A small remnant of humanity and the animal kingdom, carried safely through the storm to start all over again. It literally held the raw materials of hope. Now, inside the Ark of the Covenant, we find three items that tell the story of Israel's journey with God. You've got his perfect law, which they couldn't keep, the supernatural bread from heaven, which they complained about, and Aaron's rod, which was a reminder of their rebellion against God's chosen leader. These weren't exactly trophies. They were powerful reminders of humanity's failure and God's incredible faithfulness in spite of it. And inside that tiny little ark, its most precious cargo, one single baby. But this wasn't just any baby. This was Moses, the future deliverer of an entire nation. It was a life preserved against impossible odds, all to fulfill a divine mission. So we have this pattern of salvation, a story told by the contents. So where is this all going? Well, this is the climactic reveal. These three physical arks, with all their patterns and their contents, were all pointing forward to, or foreshadowing, a single person. The connection here is just so powerful. Noah's Ark was the one way to be saved from the physical judgment of the flood, and the Bible's narrative then points to Jesus as the one way to be saved from the final spiritual judgment of sin. One ark saved from water, the other saves from fire.
And the Ark of the Covenant? It was a symbol of God's presence, a holy, unapproachable box.
But in Jesus, that symbol becomes a person. He doesn't just represent God, he is God in the flesh. Emmanuel, which literally means God with us.
And finally, the little ark that saved a baby deliverer points to the ultimate deliverer. See, Moses was saved by an ark so he could rescue one nation from slavery. But Jesus is the ark, the deliverer who rescues all people from slavery to sin and death.
So, the whole point of this ancient pattern isn't just to be a cool history lesson. It all leads up to a question that kind of echoes across time. An invitation that, believe it or not, is still open today.
And this is just such a powerful statement. God never forced anyone into an ark. He provided it, he revealed it, he invited people into it, but he didn't compel them. Noah had to choose to build it and then walk through the door. Moses' mother had to choose to trust her son to that little basket. The invitation has always been there, but stepping into the safety of the ark, that's always required a personal act of faith.
So, what does that even mean for us? What does entering the ark look like today? Well, first, it's about surrendering control. It's that moment when you trust God with your future, just like Moses' mom had to do when she let go of that basket. It's also about living a life that's, well, set apart, choosing to be faithful even when the world thinks you're crazy, kind of like Noah building a giant boat with no rain in sight. And maybe most importantly, it's about depending completely on grace, relying on Christ's work, not your own, just like that mercy seat on the ark.
And so this entire journey through history and language and symbolism, it all boils down to this one very direct question. It's not just some intellectual exercise. It's a personal invitation.
And we'll end with this final, really powerful thought. In the end, the final crisis won't be about who studied the ark, but about who entered it. It's not about just understanding the concept or thinking it's a cool story. The only thing that matters is, are you inside? Thanks so much for joining me for this.